telling you what kind of pronouns you're going to be allowed to use. They're going to take away he and she and mother and father and sister and brother. Are they crazy? What? These people are crazy, honest. I'm not using their pronouns. I've got news for them. They can keep their pronouns because I'm not using them. I wanted to talk a little bit about this $78 million, or maybe more even, that went to the churches during the pandemic to bail out the churches. Now, of course, they don't pay taxes. So how come they receive government funding from the Small Business Administration to keep their ministries alive? And they did. They received these loans. Well, and apparently they don't have to pay back these loans. But I just have a feeling, now I could be wrong, but I just have a feeling that this new administration just might make them have to pay this money back, because I don't think they're going to be big fans of evangelical Christians. But I'm just going to name a few of these people here, and you'll see. Now, these are people that are supposed to live by faith, but they only live by 10% alone, most of these people. So, anyway. Che Ann of Harvest Rock Church received $311,000, and supposedly he's got 34 employees, and so he has to make sure they get paid. Ernest Angley, televangelist Ernest Angley, who's been found to be a pervert and was sued for sexual abuse, and he settled the lawsuit out of court. He got $375,000, and he supposedly has 83 employees. And you can see this information on the Trinity. It's trinityfi.org. And if you go there, you can see this whole list. And this is quite a long list. Now, also you have televangelist Jim Bakker. Jim Bakker, he got almost $500,000. And he's got 39 employees. Yeah, $500,000, Jim Bakker. More, and also his church. Oh, look, he got more money. He almost got $1 million. His Morningside Church Retreat, that was the church production company, got $500,000. Morningside Church Retreat got $198,000, and Morningside Church Management got another $194,000. So he got almost $1 million. Jim Bakker. Yeah, Jim Bakker. And then you have Jonathan Bernis from Jewish Voice. He's always begging for money on TV. And he got almost $1 million. And he says he's got 73 employees. Now, he produces a TV program, Jewish Voice. I said, I don't know, Jonathan, can't you get money from donations? Oh, well, they were giving away this money for free, so I guess they figured they'd help. Now, here's another one that's supposedly sells millions of books. John and Lisa Bevere, and their ministry is called Messenger International. They've got $542,000, and they supposedly have 37 employees. That's a pretty good-sized ministry. Yeah, John and Lisa Bevere were looking for a handout. And none of these ministries file 990 reports that I'm naming. Mike Bickle now. Mike Bickle, the big man of faith, International House of Prayer. He got $2,514,000. And supposedly, look at this, he's got 473 employees. Now, how do you figure that? 473 employees? I don't think so. Mike Bickle. And then Mike Bickle got even more money. He got his International House of Prayer Forerunner Christian Fellowship got $215,000. And he has 61 employees. Claude Bowers, oh dear, this is a beggar con artist if there ever was one, from the WACX TV in Orlando. He got $168,000. He's not making enough money from selling airtime to pay his bills. No, he's got to go get a handout. Yeah. Then you have the Branham, Joseph Branham. Now, believe it or not, Branham's been dead for how many years? And they take in, and these are documents, court documents, or I don't know if they do file a 990 or whatever. Yeah, they file a 990. So if you go on, I think 990 Finder, if you want to look up these documents for yourself, you can see for yourself. They at one point were taking in $100 million a year. Now, how does a dead person take in $100 million a year for his ministry? Figure that one out, but they do. And anyway, even with all that money they've been taking in, Joseph Branham, which I don't know if that's his son or his cousin or who, I'll have to find out. But Voice of God Recordings is the name of the ministry. They have 107 employees for a dead person, and they took $1,162,000. That must be nice, right? Tony and Cynthia Brazelton, another man of faith and power, supposedly. They're always blabbing about how God blesses them and gives them jets and, all kinds of lavish things. Victory Christian Ministries, they had to take $319,000 because God didn't come through for them. And they have 27 employees. Jamal Bryant. Now, Jamal Bryant, he's always, bad-mouthing the government or whatever. And but he didn't mind getting a handout, right? Jamal Bryant, he did not mind taking a handout. When they were giving him a handout, the U.S. government, Jamal took $462,000 from New Birth Missionary Baptist Church, and he supposedly has 42 employees. Yeah. Happy Caldwell, remember him from Word of Faith days? Happy Caldwell, he's another one that's got jets and mansions, and so no, but he's got Victory Television Network. Now the government has to fund these television networks, right? He got $219,000. So it says here in the side note, at the end of 2018, Victory Television Network had $14 million in total assets, which included a cash reserve of more than $1 million. So, Happy, how come you needed that $219,000 from taxpayers? Now, Morris Cirillo, here's another joker, right? Morris Cirillo, World Evangelism, another huckster, if there ever was one. He took almost $1 million, and he's got 89 employees. It says in December 2019, Cirillo's ministry opened a $190 million themed resort. And according to the San Diego Union Tribune, the project was built debt-free. Yeah, but that wasn't enough for Morris. He had to go, the government was handing out payroll protection money, and they decided that they needed $1 million. And here's the Christian Television Network, and I'm very familiar with them here in my neck of the woods. Christian Television Network, who takes in millions of dollars selling airtime, and who's also owned by a multimillionaire or the president of the organization, Bob DeAndre. They also had to get $1 million to keep their network going, and they have 115 employees. Matthew Crouch. Now, Look at this one. Matthew Crouch from TBN, and you all know that TBN is worth over $1 billion. They have assets all over the world, real estate, and they have a big, very expensive mansion in Colorado. I don't know if it was $24 million or something like that. And, of course, they have all these buildings everywhere. Now, Matt had to get a handout. Matt Crouch, he needed a handout. Don't you feel sorry for him? Well, average Americans and people that are losing their businesses aren't getting this kind of money. No, they give you $600. But Matthew Crouch got $3.3 million. Yeah, Trinity Broadcasting of Texas. $3.3 million. And supposedly they have 336 employees that they had to pay because, they probably take over $50 million or $100 million a year in selling airtime, but that wasn't enough money to run their ministry. No, they had to go get some money from the government. And then you have Dr. Tony Evans of Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship. He took $2.3 million. Yes, Jensen Franklin, he had to get a handout. Jensen Franklin took almost $2 million from the payroll protection program. Yes, Jensen needed a handout. Don't you feel sorry for Jensen? Yes, as he flies around on his private jet. I don't know if he's got a private jet. I'll have to check. Most of these people, though, they have private jets. They live in mansions. Oh, but they needed some taxpayer funding. Here's another joke. Stephen Fairtick. Now, poor Stephen. He's not getting enough money from television time and from tithes and offerings. Stephen Fairtick took almost $4 million from the payroll protection plan. Now, he says that he has 377 employees. Figure that. Jack Graham now. Jack has how many campuses? He brags. He's got all these campuses all over. I don't know if he's got 10. Of course, Jack, I know you're not taking in enough money from your tithes and offerings and your television program. You, Jack Graham, had to take $3.3 million from the WV Grant. WV Grant needed some money, of course. He got $40,000, WV Grant. John Gray of Relentless Church. Now, he's another one that always tells you, if you tithe and you give your money, God's going to bless you. But God didn't bless him. No, God didn't bless him. He had to get a loan from the government for $1.2 million, even though his church purchased him a $1.8 million home. That's his pastoral lodging there. Yes, poor John Gray. Don't you feel sorry for these people? I think we're in the wrong business. I do. Kenneth Hagin, the great Word of Faith preachers over there in Tulsa, Jerusalem, Rhema Bible Church, they needed a handout. They needed $1.5 million. Yes, $1.5 million. Then we have Mac Hammond of Living Word Christian Fellowship. Mac Hammond took almost $3 million, and it says several weeks before applying for the PPP loan, his ministry, Mac Hammond's ministry, purchased Jesse Duplantis' old Falcon 50 jet, and Hammond's church also owns another private jet, a Cessna 650, which it obtained in the fall of 2019. But yet, Mac needed a handout. Benny Hinn, another con artist that tells you if you give seeds, sow seeds, and you tithe and whatever, God's going to give you money. But Benny, God wasn't in his corner, and Benny took almost $700,000. Larry Huck, the huckster, he took $514,000. T.D. Jakes is so rich. He's got a big, huge mansion. I'm sure he probably has a private jet. He's got television money, tithe money that people give over there at that Potter's house. But no, TD needed a handout, and he took $2.5 million. Robert Jeffers, he needed a handout too. Robert Jeffers took, he took almost $4 million. Robert Jeffers. Don't you feel sorry for him? I think if they're going to take money from the government, they better stop collecting tithes and offerings. That's what I think. Stop telling people God's going to bless you by tithing and seed sowing, and then you're going looking for government handouts, taking taxpayer money to fund your ministries. David Jeremiah. Now, isn't he a respected man, right? David Jeremiah. He has assets reported at $22 million. But yet he needed a handout, and he took $2 million from the payroll protection plan. Now look at that. Yeah, of course we know Marcus and Joni Lamb took $4 million, but they paid it back after they were outed on Inside Edition. They were totally embarrassed, and of course they took money. Now here's Greg Laurie, another man that'll tell you, you have to tithe to get blessings. But yet Greg wasn't getting blessed. No. Harvest Christian Fellowship took almost $3 million. Carl Lentz took almost $1 million. Guillermo Maldonado, another big huckster, con artist, took $2 million because God wasn't blessing him. Joyce Meyer. Now look at this. Joyce Meyer, who owns mansions, I don't know how many, her own jet, how much Joyce Meyer Ministry is worth. Joyce Meyer took $5 million from payroll protection plan. She's got supposedly 402 people she has to pay, and she didn't have the money. I don't know. I guess tithing and seed sowing is not working for these people, right? We better have a teaching session for them. Paul Morton of Greater St. Stephen's, he didn't mind taking some government money, $253,000. Here's a real joke here. Joel Osteen took almost $5 million. Joel Osteen took almost $5 million. Now, isn't he like the biggest selling author? And he's got a $10 million house. But Joel didn't have any money. We got to feel sorry for him. $5 million. Rod Parsley, another man that blabs about Passover offerings and first fruits offerings and tithing and seed sowing, but God didn't bless Rod in 2020, and Rod had to take $1.7 million because he's got 165 employees he has to pay. And here's another joke. Frederick Price, he took almost $2 million, Crenshaw Christian Center. Richard Roberts, now poor Richard needed a handout. Wouldn't you like to get one of these handouts, right? $370,000. Richard Roberts. Oh, here's another. Oh, don't you feel sorry. Sarah Jakes, who's TD's daughter, and her husband, Torrey. Potter's House of Denver. Those tithes and offerings were not rolling in during the pandemic, and they took $229,000. I guess that was their salary. They have 22 employees. Sid Roth. Sid was always blabbing about seed faith. Poor Sid, he's got 0 employees, it says. 0 employees, but yet Sid had to have almost $600,000 with 0 employees. Bobby Schuler, that's the grandson of Robert. Poor Bobby Schuler, he had to take $414,000. Now, Jay Sekulow and Pat Robertson for the American Center of Law and Justice. Jay Sekulow's not making enough money. Either it's Pat Robertson, he takes in $200-300 million a year. You could see his 990 on 990 Finder, and it is reported there. even though he sells for something, I don't know, $50 million or $100 million a year in airtime. They still need more money, you know. And poor Pat and Jay, they needed $1.2 million. And then you have Kerry Shook, Fellowship of the Woodlands Church. He needed almost $1.5 million. Let's see. The Summeralls, the poor Summeralls. They don't have enough money. They own a network, a satellite network, and other TV stations and radio stations around the world. They don't have enough money. They had to take almost $2 million. Here's another joke. Jimmy Swaggart. Jimmy Swaggart, who's always begging for money. He has telethons at least once a month, and they need $40 million or whatever to take up their to keep their ministry going there. They also collect tithes and offerings. But poor Jimmy, he didn't have enough, so he took almost $3 million. Yes, Chuck Swindoll, the best-selling author. And poor Chuck, he didn't have enough money either, so he took $2 million. Even David E. Taylor had his hand in the pot. And David E. Taylor, he's got 3 employees. 3 employees. And that's Joshua Media Ministries, but he only took $31,000. I guess maybe he needed a new car or something, right? Casey Treat, that's another word of faither who didn't have enough faith to trust God, and he took $506,000. Chris Vallotton, Bethel Media, took almost $500,000. Rick Warren, now don't you feel sorry for Rick Warren? He had that best-selling book. He's probably, who knows how many tens of millions of dollars he's worth. Poor Rick Warren, he had to take $500,000, plus he took another $200,000, so he got about $800,000. Rick Warren, I guess those book sales are dwindling, right? Paula White, she didn't have enough money, even though she recently took, it came to light as some documents have been released recently, some of Paula's financial documents, and Paula, one year at Pastor Appreciation Day. Now, wouldn't you like this to happen to you? When was the last time somebody put $50,000 in your hand, you know? Pastor Appreciation Day over there at New Destiny, Paula White got $50,000. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think we should have a appreciation day for ourselves, right? Those Pastor Appreciation Days, those are some lucrative days on the map. Here's Bill Winston. All the money that Bill Winston had. Bill Winston's church owns a private Gulfstream jet. And so, but Bill Winston, with all his blabbing too about tithing and giving, blah, blah, and how God will bless you, poor Bill, he had to take almost $2 million. Coral Ridge Ministries there in Coral Gables, Florida, they needed some money too. Those tithes and offerings weren't rolling in, and they needed $354,000. And Ed Young Jr., we even had he dipped his hand there in the pie, and he got $1.5 million. And Robby Zaharias, who we were going to talk about today, I don't know how much time we're going to have. Well, we have enough time to talk about him, but Robby Zaharias took $1.6 million. And so that's it. How do you like that, right? Yeah. Well, most Americans were suffering, and they were fighting. The government was fighting back and forth about how much money they were going to give people. And they just recently said that they're going to send $600. And then the Democrats said, well, if you vote for us, we'll give you $1,200. You know, the world is crazy. The world is crazy. Yeah, Chuck Swindoll. Yeah, I know the name sounds like swindler. It does, but it's crazy. The whole thing is crazy because so many people are suffering in this country, and they're truly suffering, especially some of these states where people are locked down. They can't have their restaurants, they can't have their gyms, they can't have their beauty salons, they can't have their nail salons, they can't work, they can't provide for their families the way they're used to providing. And these are people that want to work. These are not lazy people. These are business people. And yet they give these hucksters and these swindlers millions of dollars. Anyway, God knows all about it, and I'm sure the Lord's not pleased. But so